All right, you guys might have to let me do that. Okay, so hopefully everybody will pull up their Bhagavad-gītā as it is, and then we can read this chapter together. There's a couple of verses in here that stand out in my mind. I'd like to stop us as we're going through that we might want to chant the Sanskrit together on because they're just such wonderful verses. The last verse, there's 47 verses in this chapter, so it's a little bit longer chapter. But the last verse in this chapter says it all. It says it all. So when we get to the last verse, we're going to take a little time. We'll go through the purport slightly on that one too, and we definitely will chant Sanskrit on that one. So I think you'll really like this. I was just telling Drew, Susan, that we just got back from a Krishna Song Fest down in Alachua, Florida, and the house was packed. They couldn't even get any more people in the building. I think they were turning them away as far as I could tell. I mean, it was a lot of people were standing outside and they were expecting a certain number and almost twice that number showed up. So people want to hear songs about Krishna. They want to hear the words of Krishna. They want to know Krishna. We want to know God again and we want to find out what is our original relationship with God. And we want to relish that taste because that's the true pleasure of our lives. Rama means the source of all pleasure. So when we connect through God's names, we connect through God's words, we connect through songs about God, God's pastimes, when we connect with each other, even the Vaishnavas remind us of Krishna. And so when we're reminded of Krishna, we're happy because we're fearless. We become fearless. One time, I think some devotee asked Prabhupada, they said, what does it feel like to be a pure devotee? And Prabhupada sat for a few moments and he thought, he's very grave. He said, fearless. So fearlessness is a condition that's not found in the material world, is it? This is called kunta. The material world is a place of fear, of anxiety at every moment. Because death is everywhere. Death is everywhere. The spiritual world is called Vayakunta, a place free from all fear. So if we look at the world that we're living in, and just a little prelude to this chapter, but if we look at the world we're living in, the axiom that fits the world the best that I know of out of the Vedic literature is Jivo Jiva Sajivanam. And what that means is one living entity is the food of another. So no matter how much you want to enjoy the material world, no matter how much you want to think it's a great, pleasant place, when you become self-realized, you begin to realize this is the shadow of the reality. The reality is the spiritual world. We don't die in the spiritual world. In the material world, we die. So today I was going to dedicate this program to Bhakti Mason. Now, some of you, I don't know if you know Bhakti Mason. Susan, do you know Bhakti Mason? Do you know Bhakti Mason, Drew? Yeah, you know him. He came to the program. He's bearded, kind of bald-headed and bearded. You remember him? Susan, did you ever meet Mason? You're not sure? You can't remember? Rangavati, you remember Bhakti Mason, right? His father fell dead this morning in his living room. 57, 58-year-old man. So there is no guarantee we're going to make it another day. There's no guarantee we'll take another breath. You know, when the time comes, there's very little you can do about it. But Mason had been coming and staying with me on the weekends. He's been going through the AA program. You know, he's had some addiction issues like that. And so he's making tremendous progress in his spiritual life. And so we studied Bhagavad-gītā together. We studied Srimad Bhagavatam together. We talk about his problems. We try to come up with solutions that are Vedic, you know, that are axioms from the absolute truth instead of these relative concepts which may or may not work, right? So we do that. And then he goes home to his father. This has been going on for a few years. He goes home to his father and it's all fresh on his mind. And his dad's talking about the troubles and anxieties and fears and miseries of life, and he's over there preaching it to him. He's simply repeating what he's heard, right? Which is what we're doing here, right? So he's doing that, and his father says, Hare Krishna? So his father has chanted Hare Krishna on numerous occasions and heard the philosophy of the Vedic literature, the Bhagavad-gītā, and so forth and so on. So when he passed, they were trying to revive him. And they said that they were all holding hands and they were trying to get him to come back to life. And at this very moment, they all had a similar vision in their mind. They saw him literally surrounded by stars. And he was laughing, joyously laughing. So there's the Vedic axiom that you cannot commit enough sin that the holy name can't relieve you of. And this gentleman was also addicted to substances and so forth and so on, and had a very difficult life. And so the interesting thing is that these folks had a kind of a simultaneous vision as he left his body, that he was smiling and very happy. So that's a good sign, guys. And we know this system works, but when we hear about people beyond the grave, who are, sharing with us through visions or epiphanies, or what do they call those things? Premonitions or whatever. We can see beyond, a little bit beyond just these mortal eyes, and we can look into more of a spiritual vision and see what's going on. So I feel very positive about him. I want to dedicate this program to Bobby. Okay, so that's who we're dedicating the program to tonight. So good. Please keep it.
Brock has just arrived.
Brock. Very nice to have
Hi
you.
there, Brock.
Guys, I want to offer my respects to you all for being so stalwart and attending these classes. You are a true inspiration to me, and I thank you so very, very much for doing that. So, okay, so as usual, I think we'll start out with just a little kirtan, if that's okay with you guys. Is that all right? All right. And I want to start out with the pranams to the spiritual master. Okay. Hopefully you guys can hear this. Can you hear it? All right. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prachadani Nirashesha Shunyavadi Vasyachari Shatarame Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. With me, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. One more time. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Okay, now since we're going to be chanting from Bhagavad-gītā, we're going to do Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Jai Bhagavan Shri Krishna Bhagavan. Jai Bhagavan Shri Krishna Bhagavan. O Jai Bhagavan Shri Krishna Bhagavan. Jai Bhagavan Shri Krishna Bhagavan. Jai Shri Krishna, 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 Jai Shri Krishna. Now some Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Ram Ram. Jaya Govinda, Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Radha Ramana, Hare Govinda, Jaya Jaya, Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Radha Ramana, Hare Govinda, Jaya Jaya, Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Radha Ramana, Hare Govinda, Jaya Jaya, Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Radha Ramana, Hare Govinda Jaya. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai go to Hari Bol, go to Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai go to Hari Bol, go to Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai go to Hari Bol, Nitai go to Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai go to Hari Bol. Haribo! Well, we got them all in, didn't we? All right. So this is Dhyan Yoga or Dhyana Yoga. Does anybody know what Dhyan Yoga means?
Dhyana.
Dhyana?
Knowledge?
Try again.
Oh,
Divine.
Go ahead.
Divine.
When he says divine?
Okay. Let's try one more time. You guys are doing good. Good.
Getting warmer.
You got an E for effort. We're getting there. What does it mean? Does anybody know? Anybody want to say what dhyana means? Dhyana is part of the Ashtanga yoga system, right? So dhyana yoga means meditation. There you go.
Mm.
So it means meditation. Now, we've talked about transcendental knowledge in another chapter, right? We talked about that, which sometimes is called Sankhya Yoga, or the analytical study of everything, sometimes called Jnana Yoga. Jnana means knowledge or wisdom.
Oh, that's what I was thinking.
Dhyana, see that you may have mixed it up, Drew. You may have mixed that one up. So dhyana or dhyan yoga, I guess depending on which part of India you're from, means meditation, which is the step before what? In the Ashtanga system, what's the step before? Go ahead, sis. What is it?
So when I study that, I know it as pratyahara, withdrawing of the senses, dharana, concentration, dhyana, meditation.
Right. And then what comes
Samadhi,
next?
bliss.
And then what comes after dhyana?
After the meditation, samadhi, bliss.
You took me home. I appreciate it. Yeah. So samadhi is the goal, because samadhi means we're in a state of, absolute absorption, right? So we start with yama, niyama, pranayama, asana, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi, right? We go through those processes. And that Ashtanga yoga system is designed to bring us to a state of absolute God consciousness. That's the whole point. The whole point is to be conscious of God. So in that meditation, in that state, we achieve samadhi. Now, Krishna is all bliss. God is all bliss. So when you actually associate with God, you become all blissful. Actually, when you associate with God, you get the qualities of God. You develop the same qualities. Just like if you put iron, it may be metal, it may be rusty, it may be cold, but you put it in a fire, and when it comes out, what does it act like? Iron, or does it act like fire? Acts like fire. So when you touch something with it, it catches flame. So what we want to do, we are iron, okay? And Krishna is fire. So we want to take that iron and put it in the fire, and then we become just like fire, right? And we develop these qualities of God by the association of God. And then we become qualified to be in God's presence. As a matter of fact, Prabhupada said this process of bhakti yoga actually will allow you to be not only in the presence of God, but to actually have your original relationship back with God, to dance with God, to sing with God, to be involved in the rasa, in the spiritual sky, in that Vaikuntha world that we just talked about. Okay? Which is Satchidananda Vigraha, which is always filled with absolute knowledge, eternality, bliss, ananda, with form, unlimited varieties of form and pleasure. That's what we're made for. Okay? Because Krishna is that, and we're little sparks of Krishna. So therefore we have the same proclivities. So in this chapter, we're going to learn how to meditate. We're going to learn how to meditate. It's not very easy. Actually, Arjuna, later in the chapter, tells Krishna it sounds impossible to him. But Krishna assured him that it is possible by appropriate means. So I think what we're going to do is I'll read the first 2 or 3, and then Susan, maybe you could read for a little while. Drew, have you got your Gita with you? Okay, you can read, and then Rangavati, you read. And if Bhavananda's back there somewhere and he wants to read, he can, or anybody else.
And Brock wants to read.
Brock, yeah, please, Brock, I would like you to read tonight. You didn't read last time.
I wasn't here last time.
Oh, that's right. Plus, you were driving one time, and that'd be hard to read while you're driving.
Yeah.
It was his daughter's birthday.
What?
Haven, wasn't it? Was she 10 or something?
8. She turned 8.
Oh, that's just beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's just wonderful. Well, our birthday wishes and blessings upon that beautiful soul. Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah. Very, very good. So I'll read the first couple. The text one is the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, one who is unattached to the fruits of his work and who works as he is obligated is in the renounced order of life, and he is the true mystic, not one who lights no fire and performs no duty. What is called renunciation you should know to be the same as yoga, or linking oneself with the Supreme. O son of Pandu, For one can never become a yogi unless he renounces the desire for sense gratification. I got to stop right here for 1 second and clarify. Okay, we're all pleasure seekers, okay? But when we seek pleasure separate from God, we're like misers, we're like robbers, we're like not acknowledging the source of our pleasure. So you see the Bhakti Yoga process, before we eat food, for an example, we offer it all to Krishna. He always leaves some behind for us. And it's even more delicious after offering. So the pleasure is even more enhanced. Go ahead, bro.
So if you keep in mind at all times that God is the source of all things, then sense gratification becomes a positive thing.
It does, but not when it's used separately, or not when it's used against the shastric injunction. So part of the concept is to learn the shastric injunction. You don't want to just make it up as you go along. In other words, there are the Vedas. The Vedas are the personification of Krishna, right? So those Vedas are the literary incarnation through Vyasadeva. And those instructions are passed down through the Sampradaya. You've got that book in your hand, Bhagavad-gītā, as it is. Those are the words that Krishna spoke to you 5,000 years ago. And they'll be just as prevalent 5 million years from now. So God wants his relationship back with you, but because you're a part and parcel of God, your deviations from this system that God has created for everyone's enjoyment becomes the source of your misery, ultimately. So sense gratification is just your worst enemy if it's not used in Krishna's service. Krishna is called Hrishikesh. Hrishikesh means the master of the senses. So Krishna enjoys through you. He actually enjoys through you. So devotional love is the taste that Krishna is looking for. So when a person offers the food, for an example, God made the food. God made your stomach. God made the acids that digest. God made the mind you understand it with, the taste buds that you have, the sun, the light, the air, the earth. Everything is God's. You're God's. You're part and parcel of God. God is the soul of your soul. Krishna says you'll know that everything is in me and is mine. Everything belongs to God, including you. So when you give yourself back to the Lord in full surrender, that's called Bhakti Yoga. That's Sanatana Dharma. Sanatana Dharma is not something you do temporarily. It goes on in the spiritual sky. So a lot of the processes that we do in yoga are designed to bring us to Bhakti Yoga. And the last verse of this chapter is going to describe that very clearly to us. And we'll read the purport on that one as well and chant the Sanskrit. But the question is, or the idea is that sense gratification, when used separately, is thievery, basically, right? Because we're taking something that doesn't belong to us and we're using it. It's like, I hate to use this example, but when we were little kids, there was one kid who always had candy. We didn't have any candy. You know what I'm saying? So we'd find him hiding out under the stairs or something, eating the candy. You know, we were like, "What? You know, you're not willing to share with us the candy? Don't you know we're hard up for candy?" And he wouldn't share. So the idea is to give everything back to God, and then using it and using your life in the service of God becomes yoga. So go ahead.
Isn't the idea that you can steal something from God illusion?
No.
Because how can you steal something from him? He created it. It is his. Even you belong to him, whether you recognize it or not.
Okay. So sin. Okay. So I want to get through this chapter because we got a limited amount of time, and you and I can discuss this separately if you'd like. But sin means to take something that is not yours to be used for a selfish purpose. Think about that. Think about that a minute. For an example, Brock, let's say I show up at your house about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I come in and I pilfer your money, or I take your food, or I grab one of your kids, or something like that. That's not mine to take. That's not mine to take. So same way, this world is not ours to take without acknowledging the source of all of these gifts that we have. So yoga means to link back with God by acknowledging God in all things that we do. You with me?
Yeah, we can move on. It's okay.
But I would like to talk to you about this separately if you have any issues with that. We'll discuss
Sure.
that. So, for one who is is a neophyte in the Eightfold Yoga system, work is said to be the means, and for one who is already elevated in yoga, cessation of all material activities is said to be the means. Now, let me stop there one little second. Cessation of all material activities? Does that mean we don't move, we don't breathe, we don't eat, we don't move? No, it doesn't mean that. What it means is we stop doing everything in a selfish way and do it in a selfless way, acknowledging God in what we're doing. And we do it according to the will of God. Then we're no longer thieves, we're no longer sinful, and we don't have bad karma coming our way. These other chapters discuss this. We don't even have good karma coming. We have liberating karma. We're going back home, back to Godhead, where we live forever in the happiest condition that you could ever possibly imagine. So a person is said to be elevated in yoga when, having renounced all material desires, he neither acts for sense gratification nor engages in fruitive activities. This is part of that concept that we do what we do for God, and then the results become prasadam. They become mercy of God. And that mercy of God becomes relishable to the devotee. For him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain the greatest enemy. So this is yoga. Yoga means to conquer the mind, to control the mind. That's what meditation means, to focus the mind. Don't let the mind deviate from what you've meditated on. So for one who has conquered the mind, the super soul is already reached, for he has attained tranquility. To such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are all the same. Basically, what we're talking about is we see ourselves as an eternal soul, different than the machine made of material energy, which includes the mind and the senses, right? We're above the intelligence. We're above the false ego. We are the actual Atma, the Jivatma. We're the soul beyond that. When we get to that level, we actually are in a state of yoga, and we understand that we're part and parcel of Krishna. So it says here that we've already attained the super soul. And we don't really care about this machine. I mean, we care about it. We're going to maintain it. We're going to use it in God's service. But I mean, we're not so concerned about heat, cold, happiness, distress. We see everything as a gift of God, and we're grateful. We're actually conditioned by gratitude. Even if bad things come, we're conditioned by gratitude. And because those things are there to educate us how to become higher and higher in our understanding and realization and relationship with God. So who wants to read next? Text 8.
I'll go.
Go ahead, Brian.
A person is said to be established in self-realization and is called a yogi or mystic when he is fully satisfied by virtue of acquired knowledge and realization. Such a person is situated in transcendence and is self-controlled. He sees everything, whether it be pebbles, stones, or gold, as the same. A person is considered still further advanced when he regards honest well-wishers, affectionate benefactors, the neutral, mediators, the envious, friends and enemies, the pious and the sinners, all with an equal mind.
Now, I need to stop you just 1 second there, because in the life of Jesus Christ, we saw that Jesus Christ said, love your enemies, right? So this is what's being recommended. We see the envious, friends, enemies, everybody is all the same, the sinners. We understand that they're all parts and parcels of God. They may have forgotten that state and taken up these conditioned ways that are adverse to their well-being and to the well-being of everyone around them, including their family. And so we see how these things happen when people take up mental concoctions. For an example, you know, I don't know if anybody here smoked cigarettes before, but somehow or the other, I did as a young man, we were told that it was pleasurable. Well, the first time I smoked a cigarette, I vomited. But I kept doing it because it was cool. I wanted to be like all the other people who were cool. So gradually, I began to think that pain was pleasure. Is that bizarre or what? So what happens in the material world, we begin to think that all of these conditioned mental concoctions that we see as pleasurable are true, but they're an illusion. And so when we're in a state of Maya, we're in a state of illusion. We have to overcome that illusion by cultivating knowledge passed down, thoroughly honest, through the sampradaya, disciplic succession by persons who are self-realized and who give us this information and are living in accordance with that. So that's the idea behind that. So I didn't mean to stop you, Brock. Go ahead and go ahead, but I wanted to clarify on that.
A transcendentalist should always engage his body, mind, and self in relationship with the Supreme. He should live alone in a secluded place and should always carefully control his mind. He should be free from desires and feelings of possessiveness. To practice yoga, one should go to a secluded place and should lay kusa grass on the ground and then cover it with a deerskin and a soft cloth. The seat should be neither too high nor too low and should be situated in a place. The yogi should then sit on it very firmly and practice yoga to purify the heart by controlling his mind, senses, and activities and fixing the mind on one point. One should hold one's body, neck, and head erect in a straight line and stare steadily at the tip of the nose. Thus, with an unagitated, subdued mind, devoid of fear, completely free from sex life, one should meditate upon me within the heart and make me the ultimate goal of life.
All right, I want to stop you there just 1 second because this is the Ashtanga Yoga process. Now, this was done back in Satya Yuga and in other previous yugas and was the Yuga Dharma. But let me ask you guys, are y'all ready to go to the Himalayan mountains and sit on some kusha grass, for a few years?
Sure.
Drew's ready. When does the bus leave, right?
Yeah. As long as I can still like scroll through Instagram and YouTube.
And the jet plane is not, leaving contrails above your head and such. Okay. So guys, listen, there is a Yuga Dharma. Yuga Dharma means the religion of the age. And Ashtanga Yoga is designed to bring us to a state of meditation, which is Dhyana Yoga, which is what we're talking about, which brings us to a state of Samadhi. But this Yuga Dharma is different. Does anybody know what the Yuga Dharma is now?
Kali.
What is it?
Age of Kali, right?
Kali Yuga, yes. But what's the Dharma for the Kali Yuga?
Chanting the holy name.
Hey, wow. Look at that. That is very cool, Drew. Thank you for that. This is the Dharma of Harinama, Harinama, Harinama eva kevalam. Kalo nasteva 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 gatirenti daha. Kalo, Kali means, Harinama means to chant God's names. Okay, so if I said everybody here tonight, the only way you're going to get it done is I need you to go get some kusha grass. I need you to get a deer skin. I need you to leave. Now, be devoid of your family, sex life. You can't have that. You have to be completely celibate. Go to the mountain, sit down, and meditate, and do it for as long as it takes until you enter into trance. How many people would I have as takers for that program this evening? How are you? Hey, how you doing? I see you there. So you see how many people would probably find that very, very difficult at this time. So Harinama means that together we sing, together we dance, together we chant. We meditate by locking the ears, the tongue, the mouth, like that. The eyes with the vision of the deity or pictures of God or whatever the pastimes of God we're meditating. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, right? Archanam, Vandanam, Padasevanam. These practices are designed to bring us into a state of samadhi, and they're called the Yuga Dharma, because in this age, it's not so practical. However, there are benefits of the Ashtanga Yoga system that we need to avail ourselves of. Our body, we need to keep it in perfect health. There's no question about it. We need to control our mind. We need to do all of those things. And it can be done in the practice of Bhakti Yoga in this modern age. So practicing constant control of the body, mind, and activities, the mystic transcendentalist is mind regulated attains to the kingdom of God, the abode of Krishna, by cessation of material existence. Now, that's what I wanted to bring to your attention. Cessation of material existence means everything becomes spiritual. So how do you take everything and turn it into spiritual? That is the Bhakti Yoga process. Krishna consciousness means that I become conscious of God in all things. I see God everywhere. I see God always. There's never a time I'm devoid of not being with God. God is ever present. He's in every cell. He's in my heart. God's in your heart. When I look at you, I say namaste. Namaste means I recognize the soul within, that you are not the body. What, are you just some heart muscle beating? Is that what you are? I mean, what are you, the toenails? I mean, you know, are you the hair follicles? I mean, what are you? Are you the brain matter or the stem that goes down to medulla oblongata? Exactly what are you? You are an eternal spiritual spark of God. You never die. You were never born. You will never die. Remember, we've talked about this in the previous chapters. But you are riding in a machine made of material energy. This is your machine, just like the squirrel outside here. That's his machine, according to his karma. We get a machine. So in this life, you've been given this device, and it becomes your sturdy boat to cross over the ocean of nescience or ignorance. And you're here rowing the boat tonight. I applaud you all. Everyone should be here. There should be so many people, it breaks the system. That's what I think. Because what's important? What's important? See, that's why it says the yogi sees rocks, stones, gold. He sees it all the same. He realizes all this stuff is temporary. You can't take it with you. There's no U-Haul trailer attached to the tombstone, y'all. You ain't taking it with you. Whatever you think you have right now, you're going to lose it all. So why not give it back to God today? And then you get the merit for doing that. And that's called the cessation of material existence. Unlimited activities. Krishna's already described to us in the previous chapters. Yeah, you know, cessation of activities. That'd be hard to do, right? I mean, we watch, you know, you could go to the ashram, Buddhist ashram. They're having one bowl of unseasoned rice a day, and the rest of the time they're chanting. You could do it. But the Bhakti Yoga system is so nice that you can have regulated sex life. You raise your children to be completely God conscious. You change the world for the better. Everyone becomes God conscious as a result of your offspring. You can work for God. You can give some portion of it if you'd like, however you want to do it. You can use all your talents, your activities. You can use in the glorification of God. And doing that, that becomes cessation of material existence. So now, who wants to read from text 16? Because we got to keep it moving, guys. I don't want to keep you all night. Who wants
I
to
can read if you want.
go ahead?
There is no possibility of one's becoming a yogi, O Arjuna, if one eats too much or eats too little, sleeps too much or does not sleep enough. He who is regulated in his habits of eating, sleeping, recreation, and work can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system. When the yogi, by practice of yoga, disciplines his mental activities and becomes situated in transcendence, devoid of all material desires, he is said to be well established in yoga. As a lamp in a windless place does not waver, so the transcendentalist whose mind is controlled remains always steady in his meditation on the transcendent self. In the stage of perfection called trance or samadhi, one's mind is completely restrained from material mental activities by practice of yoga. This perfection is characterized by one's ability to see the self by the pure mind and to relish and rejoice in the self. In that joyous state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness, realized through transcendental senses. Established thus, one never departs from the truth, and upon gaining this, he thinks there is no greater gain. Being situated in such a position, one is never shaken, even in the midst of the greatest difficulty. This indeed is actual freedom from all miseries arising from material contact.
Okay, I just want to stop 1 second there, because that is the goal, guys, is to be situated and rejoice in the self with a pure mind, and you'll be situated in boundless transcendental happiness. Now, if anybody's had a religious epiphany in here, raise your hand if you've experienced that in life. Sometimes, Susan, you know what all right. So sometimes what happens is you may go through a trauma that's so horrible that it could be anything that causes your epiphany. It could be knowledge. It could be curiosity. It could be misery. The Bhagavad-gītā describes those persons that come to God. Some come in knowledge and have that epiphany. But once you have that epiphany and you begin to realize, hey, I'm not just some earth, fire, air, ether, some 25 material elements that's going to go back into the earth. That's not really me. You know, that I'm a true spirit soul, and you begin to live in that realization. You are situated in fearlessness. You are situated in boundless transcendental happiness through transcendental senses. Now, these are the same senses, but they become spiritualized, just that the iron becomes just like fire. So when you use everything for God and you see God in everything, you never forget God, and you're connected at every moment with God, at that point, you're in yoga. There is no more material life. It may look like material life, but it's not. It's spiritual life, even in the self-same body. And the Bhagavad-gītā describes that through several verses throughout the Bhagavad-gītā. I could quote them all, but we're going to run out of time. So the thing is, guys, is when we're situated in that position, we're never shaken. Because we know God is with us at every moment. We know we're protected at every second. We don't have to worry about it anymore. Everything is being taken care of. Just like Jesus Christ said, don't worry about what you'll sleep. Don't worry about what you'll eat. Don't worry about your protection. Don't worry about any of these things. Do you not think that God's got you already? Look what he's doing for the sparrows. Are they not well arranged? Are they not eating? Are they not have everything they want? These are not concerns. Eating, sleeping, mating, and defending is being taken care of even by the roach bugs. Are you not better than a roach bug? Should we be concentrating all day on eating, sleeping, mating, and defending as our purpose in life? Remember, we're going to get to a chapter called Divine and Demoniac. When we get to that chapter, Krishna says that the demons think there is nothing greater than this. They think that to enjoy their senses unlimitedly, with greed, lust, and then become angry, they think this is the real true goal in life. But it's not. The real goal in life is to fix yourself in self-realization. So, Susan, would you read from 24?
One should engage oneself in the practice of yoga with undeviating determination and faith. One should abandon without exception all material desires born of false ego, and thus control all the senses on all sides by the mind. The yoga practitioner should be determined. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm supposed to read the translation. Sorry. Gradually, step by step, with full conviction, one should become situated in trance by means of intelligence, and thus the mind should be fixed on the self alone and should think of nothing else. From whatever and wherever the mind wanders, due to its flickering and unsteady nature, one must certainly withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self.
So this is a verse that I want to recommend that everybody learn. It's yato nischalati manaschanchalam ashtiram tastato niyam yaitad atmanyeva visham nayet. This is one that you should chant, because by chanting this verse and learning this Sanskrit, the Sanskrit is non-different than the actual realization and the meaning. So please chant that as a mantra, if you would. You may not do that right now, but I wanted to bring your attention to that one because it's an extremely important verse, right? So from wherever the mind wanders due to its flickering and unsteady nature, one must certainly withdraw it and bring it back into control of the self. So if you see yourself starting to deviate in some selfish pattern and some conditioned way that you've been trained up by your society and all of this kind of nonsense, and you realize that this is not you, this is not what you want to become, bring it back. Bring it back and chant Hare Krishna. Get your mind back in control. Okay, so go ahead and continue to read, Susan.
The yogi whose mind is fixed on me verily attains the highest happiness. By virtue of his identity with Brahman, he is liberated. His mind is peaceful. His passions are quieted, and he is freed from sin. Steady in the self, being freed from all material contamination, the yogi achieves the highest perfectional stage of happiness, in touch with the supreme consciousness. A true yogi observes me in all beings and also sees every being in me. Indeed, the self-realized man sees me everywhere. For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me.
I got to stop you right there. This is, guys, this is yoga. This is yoga. This is what we're talking about. And Krishna, he's so kind that he gives this realization in every chapter. I mean, he gives it to us over and over again so that we don't have any doubts, that we have to observe God in everything and see that we're in God, and we become a self-realized person by doing it. So you can do that. And one of the chapters that comes up, the opulence of the Supreme, right? And in the universal form, Krishna describes ways that we can envision God in everything that we do, like the taste of the water, the aroma in the air, the light of the sun and the moon. He goes through this whole series so that all day and all night you can be God conscious. And if you find yourself falling out of the God consciousness, all you got to do is chant Hare Krishna. Chant Hare Krishna and be happy. So would you continue on, Susan?
The yogi who knows that I and the supersoul within all creatures are one, worships me and remains always in me in all circumstances. He is a perfect yogi who, by comparison to his own self, sees the true equality of all beings, both in their happiness and distress, O Arjuna. Arjuna said, O Madhusudana, the system of yoga which you have summarized appears impractical and unendurable to me, for the mind is restless and unsteady.
All right. Now, this is the point I wanted to get to, guys. I told you earlier when we got started that Arjuna heard all this and Krishna's going on and it sounded pretty good. But then Arjuna, he goes, well, yeah, but, right? So Arjuna does this to Krishna throughout the Bhagavad-gītā. This is the job of the sincere student, right? Tadvidi pranipratena pariprasnena seveya upadekshanti tegana jnananas tattvadarshana. What that means is you take in the shelter of the spiritual master and you approach him with intelligent questions. And then the spiritual master gives instruction. There are various kinds of spiritual masters. One that introduces you to God conscious, that's called Vartma Pradarsika Guru. Isn't that cool? Somebody who just comes and turns you on to God, and wow, your life has changed, right? There's another one called Diksha Guru. Diksha means the initiating guru, right? That's an important guru. But there can be many Shiksha gurus. Shiksha gurus are ones that instruct. And the ones that instruct, as long as they instruct according to Shastra, Sadhu, and Guru, are legitimate. The ones who do not, who come up with their own philosophy, are bogus and should be rejected. So it's that simple, guys. Do not deviate from the absolute truth. The road is narrow, right? The path is narrow and only few go, and they go in a single file, right? But the way of error is broad, and many pass through that. This is in the Bible. I love that one. So if you don't mind, we'll get Drew. Are you there? I don't see Drew's face anymore.
I'm here. It's
Oh.
good that you don't see my face. That's okay.
No. We need to see your smiling face. It's inspiring. Would you mind reading a little bit from there?
Not at all. We're in text 34.
Yep, text 34.
Yeah.
She just read.
Very good. All right. The mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong, O Krishna. And to subdue it, I think, is more difficult than controlling the wind. Lord Sri Krishna said, "O mighty armed son of Kunti, it is undoubtedly very difficult to curb the restless mind, but it is possible by suitable practice and by detachment. For one whose mind is unbridled, self-realization is difficult work. But he whose mind is controlled and who strives by appropriate means is assured of success." That is my opinion.
Okay, here's the point, guys. Strives by appropriate means. Strives by appropriate means. Let that sink in, right? Krishna refudiates Arjuna's doubt and said, no, no, no.
It's really
It
good.
is difficult. I'm not saying it's not difficult, but it can be done by suitable practice and one who strives by appropriate means. So let me ask you a question. When we chant together and we sing together, are you guys having a real hard time with that? I mean, that's appropriate means. We're not really striving. We're riding along on the waves of the kirtan. Our minds are absorbed in God, in the names of God. You see how easy it is? All we have to do is bring ourselves back to that suitable practice, back to that Yuga Dharma, back to that appropriate means that are described by the avatars and then the sampradaya from the avatars. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the most recent avatar of God who literally opened the treasure trove of love of God and is distributing the contents freely to every single person in these names of God in this Sankirtan movement. So, okay, so there you go. That's the point I wanted to make. So keep on reading. Another couple of few.
Sure. Arjuna said, "O Krishna, what is the destination of the unsuccessful transcendentalist who in the beginning takes to the process of self-realization with faith, but who later desists due to worldly mindedness and thus does not attain perfection in mysticism? O mighty armed Krishna, does not such a man who is bewildered from the path of transcendence fall away from both spiritual and material success and perish like a riven cloud with no position in any sphere? This is my doubt, O Krishna, and I ask you to dispel it completely. But for you, no one is to be found who can destroy this doubt."
Okay, very good, Drew. Thank you for that. So that is wonderful. Arjuna's in doubt, right? Later in the Gita, he says, "Now are your doubts dispelled?" He asked him the question because he's in this process of being his spiritual master. And guess what? We're all Arjunas, little Arjunas here, because we're learning and we have our own battle of life. Maybe we're not on the battle of Kurukshetra, but we're fighting our own demons. Am I right? Right? So what it is, we need this information, this imperishable science of yoga to guide us to that other side, to give us the success we're looking for. Otherwise, we'll be lost, like Arjuna's saying, with no, what does he say? With no sphere, with no sphere at all. There you go. So he asked Krishna to destroy the doubt. Who else have we not had read yet? Rangavati.
I haven't read yet.
Oh, Bhavananda has it. Look at that hand. There's Bhavananda's hand. That's it. Okay, please read a little bit.
We're on 40, correct?
That
Correct.
correct.
The blessed Lord said, son of Partha, a transcendentalist engaged in auspicious activities does not meet with destruction either in this world or the spiritual world. One who does good, my friend, is never overcome by evil. The unsuccessful yogi, after many, many years of enjoyment on the planets of the pious living entities, is born into a family of righteous people or into a family of richest aristocracy. Or he takes his birth in the family of transcendentalists who are surely great in wisdom. Verily, such a birth is rare in this world. On taking such a birth, he again revives the divine consciousness of his previous life, and he tries to make further progress in order to achieve complete success, O son of Kuru. By virtue of the divine consciousness of his previous life, he automatically becomes attracted to the yogic principles, even without seeking them. Such an inquisitive transcendentalist, striving for yoga, stands always above the ritualistic principles of the scriptures. And of all yogis, he who always abides in me with great faith, worshiping me in transcendental loving service, is the most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all.
All right.
Pages here.
Did you miss a couple of verses there?
I might have. My pages are sticking together.
Okay.
Where did I miss?
Did you do text 45 and 46?
Okay. These, I say these pages are sticking together. 45? 46.
Yep.
A yogi with a yogi is greater than the aesthetic, greater than the imperialist, and greater than the fruitive worker. Therefore, O Arjuna, in all circumstances, be a yogi.
Okay. All right. The one before that, when the yogi engages himself with sincere endeavor in making further progress, being washed of all contaminations, then ultimately achieving perfection after many, many births of practice, he attains the supreme goal. So, and then the last verse we're going to chant together. So thank you, Bhavananda Prabhu. Thank you for that. That was very nice. So, guys, look, when you engage in this devotional practice of yoga, there is no loss or diminution. Krishna describes that in Bhagavad-gītā himself. That and a little gain on this path can protect one even from the greatest dangers. The greatest danger is falling back into ignorance and into the material pool, even in the animal species or lower. We don't want to go there. We want to stay at least where we are and grow from here. So if you fail in this life, there's no loss or diminution. You just pick it up where you left off. You just pick it up where you left off and you start in another family. Now, at some point, you might get tired of this repeated birth and death program, right? I don't know. I mean, you might like birth. It's not that pleasant, is it? I mean, think about it. You know, and then you're born like a little kid. You don't know anything the first 5 years. You've got all these childhood diseases. Everybody's picking on you. You know, who knows what's going on? And then you got to spend 20 years. Prahlad Maharaj said you spend the first 20 years in childhood and boyhood, you playing games, you're not thinking about self-realization. And then the next 20 years you spend in household life raising children, you know what I mean? Or working hard to provide the money. And then in the next 20 years, you're too old to do anything else about it. So guys, you can't waste. And also, by the way, up to half of your lifetime is wasted sleeping. So do we have a lot of time for self-realization? No. That's why we need to come together. We have an hour. I mean, it's not much time to hear the absolute truth. We should be hearing it all day, every day. And that's why I've recommended this prabhupavani.org to everyone, so you can just hear it in the background. Or go to Kirtan, you know, go to ISKCON, ISKCON is it .org? I can't remember which one it is now, but you can go listen to Kirtan all day. You can keep your mind absorbed in transcendence. So, and you should, because otherwise it's going to fall prey to these millions and millions of impulses that come from all this artificial stimuli, people trying to sell you something constantly. Isn't it true? My phone rings off the hook all day. And I wish it was a devotee or one of you guys calling me, because I would just be so blissed out. But instead, it's some guy. I got a call today and it says, "Congratulations." He says, "You are a winner of Clearinghouse Publisher. May I have your social security, please?" So people are calling you constantly, trying to influence you in one way or the other. What are we doing? We're talking about pure love of God, going back home, back to the spiritual world, giving up the world of pain and misery and suffering and illusion, which is a razor's edge, danger at every step. Come on. We're talking about an eternal life of bliss and knowledge, absolute knowledge, in relationship with the Supreme Personality. Most beautiful, wealthy, wise, famous, powerful, renounced personality. Is there anything better that you could get? I mean, is there some snake oil you can buy off the internet from Amazon or something that's going to do that for you? I mean, can you go to a concert downtown and see, the most amazing idol that can save you from birth and death? No. The only place to get it is in the Shastra through the pure devotee and the Sampradaya. So Krishna says in this last verse, this is one I want everybody to practice. Krishna says these words 5,000 years ago, Yoginam api sarvesham mad gatenantaratmana shradavan bhajate yomang same yukta tamo mataha. A beautiful, beautiful verse. I'm going to chant it again. If you want to try chanting it with me, just do it. Yoginam api sarvesham mad gatenantaratmana shradavan bhajate yomang Same yukta tamo mataha. Isn't that beautiful? Krishna said that 5,000 years ago. I would recommend you learn this verse. The most important part of this verse is the bhajate. Bhajate is not the same thing as worship. Worship means that I can adore you, I can respect you, right? And I can appreciate you and honor you because you're worthy. But service with love and faith is especially meant for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And one can avoid worshiping a respectful man or a demigod or whatever. It may be called discourteous, but one cannot avoid serving the Supreme Lord without being thoroughly condemned. Now, it's not that the Lord is condemning you. You're condemning yourself because you don't acknowledge the source of everything. You're not, that's when we're deviated, because look, if I'm mailing you a check every week, right? Because I love you so much, I'm just mailing you a check and I'm making sure your kids got clothes and I'm making sure the lights and the electricity's paid for you and I'm making sure your grocery bill's handled, right? And you don't even show me any respect at all. You don't even acknowledge that I exist. I saw a billboard coming back from Florida. It said, there is evidence that God exists. I'm like, what? I mean, my goodness, man. Really? There's evidence everywhere you look. I wrote a song. I didn't get to sing it at this Krishna Song Fest, but I wanted to. Because everybody says, show me a sign. Where's your God? Hiranyakashipu says, where's your God now when I'm going to cut your head off, to his son Prahlad Maharaj? Is he in this pillar? And he hits the pillar and God comes out. So we talked about that story. But I wrote a song. It said, and I don't know if I can remember this without singing it to you, but it said, well, I called out to my sweet Lord. And I said, Lord, give me a sign. Right? I heard a voice. It was saying signs are everywhere, but to see them, you must have eyes. For I am the light unto this world, can't you see? That I am the very life of all who live in me. I am the truth that shines forevermore. That truth will lead you home past heaven's doors. Be still and hear my voice, my child, I'm calling you. For you are mine and I am yours, it's true. This love's as old as time, but still brand new. Everywhere you look, I've left a sign for you. So the second verse is, so I fell on my knees and prayed, forgive me, Lord, I've been so blind. How could I not see your lovely face in everywhere and in every place? See what I'm saying? So that's the idea. Guys, we have to see God in everywhere and every place. And in this verse, the last verse, this is what is recommended to us. And I want to give you just a last little taste. This is so this is very, very important for us all to digest right here. The culmination of all kinds of yoga practices lies in Bhakti yoga. I mean, if Krishna said it was something else, we'd be saying it's something else. All other yogas are but means to come to the point of bhakti in Bhakti yoga. Yoga actually means Bhakti yoga. All other yogas are progressions towards the destination of love of God or Bhakti yoga. From the beginning of Karma yoga to the end of Bhakti yoga is a long way to self-realization. Karma yoga without fruitive results is the beginning on this path. When Karma yoga increases in knowledge and renunciation, this stage is then called Jnana yoga. We talked about Jnana yoga, transcendental knowledge. When Jnana yoga increases in meditation on the super soul by different physical processes, like Ashtanga yoga, this is called Ashtanga yoga. And when one surpasses the Ashtanga yoga and comes to the point of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, that is called Bhakti yoga. The culmination. Factually, Bhakti yoga is the ultimate goal. But to analyze Bhakti yoga minutely, one has to understand these other yogas. So this is why Krishna describes the yoga system, the historical conclusions of yoga, what each yoga system is designed to do. But let me ask you guys a question. Do you think that everyone in the spiritual sky is trying to develop knowledge of Krishna there? No, they're just loving Krishna. You don't have to know. Once you love God, you don't need any other reasons. Like eating a meal and somebody going, "You're not full." And you're going, "Yes, I am." They go, "No, you're not." You know you're full. So the culmination of Jnana yoga or knowledge is love for God. The culmination of Ashtanga yoga, which leads to meditation and samadhi on the form of God, that leads to Bhakti yoga. Bhakti yoga. Karma yoga leads to Bhakti yoga. In the spiritual sky, everyone is dancing, chanting. It's an eternal festival, and God is there. And the relationship that you have of pure love that melted your heart, that's all you need to know when you get there. No longer do we drill to breath there. No longer we're worried about our karma. No longer do we need to develop any further knowledge. Those are stepping stones to pure love of God. So one who sticks to a particular point and does not make further progress is called by that particular name. A karma yogi, could be a jnana yogi, could be a dhyana yogi, raja yogi, hatha yogi. Of course, there's so many yogas now. But we don't know where they came into. We don't even know who created most of these yogas. Who knows? Krishna doesn't talk about him, and he's Yogeshvara. He's the creator of yoga. So he would know, don't you think? He's the purpose
Goat
of
yoga.
what is it?
Goat yoga.
Yeah, there's all kind of yogas. People are coming up with crazy stuff. I don't know what that's all about. But therefore, to become Krishna conscious is the highest stage of yoga. Just as when we say, and we speak of the Himalaya, we refer to the world's highest mountains, of which the highest peak, Mount Everest, is considered to be the culmination. It is by great fortune that one comes to Krishna consciousness on the path of Bhakti yoga to become well situated according to the Vedic direction. So the ideal yogi concentrates his attention on Krishna, who is also known as Shama Sundara, who is beautifully colored as a cloud, whose lotus-like face is effulgent as the sun, whose dress is brilliant with jewels, and whose body is flower garland, illuminating all sides in his gorgeous luster, which is called the Brahma-jyoti, the light of God. He incarnates in different forms, such as Rama, Nrsimha, Varaha, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of God. He descends like another human being as the son of Mother Yasoda, and he is also known as Krishna Govinda or Vasudeva. He is the perfect child, the perfect husband, the perfect friend, the perfect master, and he is full with all opulences and transcendental qualities. If one remains fully conscious of these features of the Lord, he is called the highest yogi of all. Hare Krishna. Repeat after me. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna,
Krishna Krishna,
Hari Hari,
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hari Ram,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Hari Ram,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Ram Ram,
Ram
Ram.
Ram,
Hari Hari.
Hare Hare.
Perfection of Yoga. A book is called that. You should read it. It's called The Perfection of Yoga. You can look it up. Guys, listen, I've taken you a little past the hour, and I'm very grateful. I drove, like 10 hours, and then I came to do this class for y'all today. So I want you to know that I must love you. I must love you. Because I wouldn't do that for anybody, I just do it for you guys.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Oh, thank you guys, really, for being with me. Y'all are my heart and soul. And please take this message and distribute it as much as possible, just like Mason did to his father. His father didn't know anything about any of these things. But Mason went and started talking about Krishna, talking about this and that. Before you know it, the guy's, he's changed his life. So let's change our life for the better. Let's change our love for the better. Let's change our fortune for the better. Let's change our association for the better and start associating with these devotees. I just got back from hundreds of devotees, man. Man, I was like blissed out. I can't even begin to tell you. Next time I go, I might take a whole busload of you guys with me, okay? Listen,
Yeah.
thank you so much. Is there any other comment or question? Because I don't want to overdo it for y'all. I don't want you to get to the point where we go, oh God, here's Gayatri. He's going to talk for days,
So has anyone experienced trance
Has anyone experienced trance?
in this group? Any of you?
Oh, well, we experience trance every time we chant, uh, because as long as your mind is not wandering to what you're going to have for dinner, what your children are doing, what you got to do at work, what's your schedule for the day, where's my clothes, do I have to wash my clothes, where's my shoes? And instead you're sitting there going, Hare Krishna. And you're absorbed in that. That is a state of meditation. That is a state of trance. Songs can take you into trance. Music can take you to trance. Mantra can take you to trance.
Yeah.
Any other questions? And I will get with you separately. You're welcome to call me anytime too, by the way.
Okay.
Was there anything in the chat though that we missed, Rangavati? Are you doing your?
No, I think Susan, did she put her hand up?
I can't see.
She may have gone.
I think she's gone.
She may
Maybe
have,
she's putting up her hand because she
because
was.
she had to go. Okay, well, keep an eye out for that.
Denise has had to go as
Yeah,
well.
just contact her back or text her, tell her that
Yeah.
we're sorry we didn't see that.
I
So
had one thought of our talk that came to my mind.
okay.
So we were talking about how a yogi keeps his mind steady like a candle in a windless place and all that, keeping a steady mind and a fixed mind on Krishna. And I was thinking in the past, in my, over the years, how much trauma I've gone through, how much stress I've gone through, how much upset I've gone through because of work and because of family and because of struggles and trying to just get through each day. And I was thinking that's because I'm not keeping my mind fixed on Krishna. I was just keeping my mind on my conditional body, thinking of myself that I'm this body. And then therefore you go through all this stuff, so much upset and strife, just because of identifying with our bodies instead of keeping steady, thinking of Krishna.
That's an excellent point. See, Krishna consciousness means to be conscious of Krishna at all times, 99.99% of the time. When you're conscious of your trauma, then you're trauma conscious. And when you're thinking about your past and, whatever, misery you experienced, you just relive that over and over. I mean, that's like going to hell. I mean, why do you want to keep going back to a hellish condition when you could actually have a sublime consciousness now? You can't do anything about the past. It's over. The only thing you can do is by chanting, you can erase the sinful reactions of the past. So that therefore we should become Krishna conscious at every moment. It says the mind of a person who is irresolute is many branched. So if you're not resolute that you're a spirit soul, if you're not resolute that you really want to learn to love Krishna and that you want to go back to your original home in the spiritual sky, your mind's going to be many branched. You'll be thinking about the past. You'll be thinking about the future. You'll be concocting some kind of idea about what you think is pleasurable. Maybe you think, maybe if I could have a cigarette, I'd be happy. Or if I smoked some herb, or if I did this, or I drank, or I did this, or I had an unlimited stall of beautiful women, or if I had money and power, God knows what you want. You know, you can see this happening to people all around you. You know, this guy, I was driving back from, and I had to go through Atlanta, but don't do that if you can avoid it. And this guy had a brand new Mercedes Benz, man. I mean, you know, the top $120,000 probably Mercedes Benz, you know. And the guy's coming down the road, and there's a little lady, and she's driving in her car. She's going 70, you know. She's going the speed limit. And this guy comes up, man, and he slams on his brake, you know, and he's like swerving or, you know, beeping and flashing his horns at her. Like, in other words, can you not, he's thinking, can you not see that I own this road? That I'm so superior to you that you're a botheration to me? Who is this man? How has he gotten to this puffed up platform thinking that he's somebody? He's nobody. He's a grain of sand. He's no better than that girl. He does not see with equal vision that Krishna's talking about. Because he sees the sinner and everybody the same, right? When you get equal vision. You see, everybody belongs to Krishna, and you just want to introduce them again. But this guy's thinking, man, can you not see how much more important that I am than you? And then he's going in and out of all these cars, risking everybody's life. Everybody's trying to live their life, but he does not give one big hoot. He thinks his life is the only important thing. See what I'm saying? And it was just struck me. I was chanting Hare Krishna. I thought, man, just see what our egos can do to us, especially if you have a little money, you know, or something like that. You know, you got to be careful, guys. It's a razor's edge. So yes, stay in the present. Be here now. Okay, don't go back. Don't go forwards. Be here right now, and do your service in the moment, and Krishna will bless you. Your future is bright. I promise you. So I'd like to offer my humble respects to each and every one of you. Thank you so much for being here. And I am going to sign off. I'm probably going to get a little extra rest from that wonderful event weekend that we had down in Florida. I'll tell you more about it when we have a chance to talk, okay?
Sounds good.
All right. Hare Krishna, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
Everyone.
Oh.